Hey everybody, it's Thomas with Get Out Arizona in partnership with Foto Forum once again, and you're watching another great episode of Garage Talk. So let's get on it. Now today we are going to be doing the long-awaited menu tutorial on the Canon R8. That's right, their latest full-frame mirrorless R-mount camera. So it's going to be a complete tutorial from start to finish, photo and video. It's going to be a little longer, guys, so bear with me on that, but I just want to make sure that I'm thorough going through all these menu settings with you. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump in and get started, and that way you don't have to hear me flapping my jaws. So here we go. So first we're going to go ahead and set the date and time, all right? And since I can't use the touchscreen because I'm recording this on a drive, we're going to go ahead, so bear with me on that. So today's date is August 21st. You can see how easy this is. Every time we're going to press that center set button before we do that. And then the time is now approximately, as I look at my watch, 9:36. Oops. 9:36. Come down. We're going to say with month, day, year. Daylight savings time is off, but time zone we're going to change. Okay. We are in Arizona, so we're going to scroll through here. Now, Denver is going to be the same as Phoenix, and I don't think they actually have Phoenix, Arizona in here, if I remember correctly from the last menu setup. Yep. So what we're going to do is we're going to set it to Denver. Denver Phoenix time is the same. Okay. And we're going to select OK, and then we're going to go OK. So now we're going to go ahead and jump right into the menu system. And if you hear jets flying or hear jets in the background, like there is right now, I live next to an Air Force base. I don't have a problem with that. To me, it's the sound of freedom. I'll try to minimize as much as I can, but there's that. So first one in our camera menu system. And when I say the camera menu system, before we get started, it's important to note there's a dial here on the side of the camera, and you might not be able to see that. We're going to be doing a button tour, dial tour video as well. You have one for camera and one for video. I actually have it set in the camera setting, and then on the top PASM dial, I have this set in manual, which is very critical. If you have it in program or auto mode, you're not going to see a lot of these same features. So this is important why we have it in the manual mode, and it's set actually on camera. So let's go ahead and get started by hitting the menu button. Image quality. We are going to go ahead and I can't use the touch screen as far as that goes. That's at the dial. Okay, so I know it's without the touchscreen, it's so confusing. So for JPEG quality, we're going to have large, but we are actually going to be shooting RAW. So if you were to shoot JPEG, set it to JPEG, it's going to be a large, that best quality JPEG you can shoot. But I encourage you to shoot RAW. You bought the camera to learn how to do photography, learn how to edit your images. So we are going to go ahead and choose RAW, not compressed RAW. For dual pixel RAW, we have disabled, and cropping aspect ratio, we're going to have full. Now, typically, you can change your aspect ratio, okay? And say like I was getting ready to shoot a landscape image and I wanted to use that as a thumbnail for a video, I would change it to 16:9. If I'm going to do social media, I would change that 1:1. Now, the nice thing about doing that in camera is what you see is what it's going to look like, and a lot of times people don't realize that when they crop in 1:1 or crop 16:9, they have to zoom into that image, and it's going to mess with your composition. So here's where you would change your cropping and your aspect ratio. Digital teleconverter we have turned off. Exposure compensation, we are going to leave this at 0. I urge you to leave this at 0. At no time in photography should you really be messing with this, in my opinion. There's going to be others that that their opinion differs. Now, when I shoot video, If I'm shooting kind of an auto exposure with my Sony cameras in log, I'll actually set that exposure compensation to 1.7 times over because I'm overexposing for that log footage. But with photography, I don't use the exposure compensation, but here's where you would change that in the menu system. Now the ISO settings, all right, we have it set to auto, and here is our range. Now, it's important to note, okay, that 102,000 ISO ain't gonna happen with this camera, okay? I would not go any more than 6,400 for auto, okay? Go ahead and get that to, there we go. And then select OK. And then for the actual, oh, this is our speed range. There's a difference there. So we're going to turn that up to 12,800. But our auto speed range, we're actually going to come down to 6,400. Okay. This camera has okay low light sensitivity, but when we see it pushed past 6,400 or 6,400 on the ISO, we tend to see a noise, okay? We wanna have as little noise as possible, and of course there's plugins like Topaz, which I use all the time, that you can use. Now, if you feel that you need to push that past 6,400, you can simply go into regular ISO, make your selection, and then go from there. But when we're shooting auto ISO, I like to have it cap out at 6,400. So, and then the minimum shutter speed we're gonna have is auto. So we're gonna back out of that. Our HDR shootings, PQ mode, keep this off. I believe, in my opinion, it adds additional saturation that's not needed. So this is why I have this off. Auto lighting optimizer is off. Highlight tone priority is off. These are all things that you're going to wanna do in post when you're editing your raw image. And I don't care what camera it is. Nikon, Canon, Sony, they tend to be heavy-handed when they use these features, and this is why we just leave them off in camera. Learn how to do that in post-production. So anti-flicker shooting mode, we are gonna have off, but if you wanna enable it, you can. This is helpful if you're indoors and you're shooting electronic shutter. It's gonna help sync up with the flicker of the light. Doesn't eliminate the little banding that you see sometimes with a electronic shutter, but it will help. So it's nice that they have that feature. External speed light control. So here is where you're going to enable all of your settings for flash. Now we don't have a flash today. With this camera, you can only use, I think it's like the CL500 or something like that. With Canon, I'll have it somewhere here. But this is where you're going to control your flash settings, all right? All the way from as far as like firing, enable, disable, the balance, standard, or you can, you know, ambience priority, flash priority. We have the synchro settings, flash function settings, flash control settings. Now keep in mind, some of these will only work with the Canon flash. Others will not work with full or third-party flashes like Godox, which is actually a very good flash. The Godox, what is that, the V1 or something? For Nikon, Canon, Sony, really, really good. So metering mode is gonna be next. So we have evaluative. This is gonna take account your entire picture. We have partial metering, we have spot metering, and we have center weighted. I typically go with evaluative metering, okay? White balance, auto white balance, but if you wanted to change it, here's your opportunity to change your white balance settings. And as you can see, there is a variety that you can choose from. All of them are going to have a drastic difference. If you were in a position where the light is not going to change and you're in full control, you can actually go to this one here, your Kelvin, and you can set it per your light temperature. For the most part, auto white balance works really well. You can adjust that in post if you're shooting raw afterwards. So if you want to add a custom white balance, and there's no card in front of the camera, this is where you're going to place a white balance card in front of the camera. Canon does it a little bit different. You're going to focus in on that. You're going to take your photo, and then it's going to analyze what the light being reflected off that white card balancing card is, and that's what it's going to set your white balance to. White balance shift, we have no shift. Color space, we want to do Adobe RGB when we're shooting JPEGs, which again, I urge you not to, but that is your choice, but make sure your Adobe or your color space is set to Adobe RGB. Picture style is auto. Now, you can do auto. I typically go with standard. Auto means the camera is going to sense what you're taking a photo of, and it's going to add a creative look. I don't want the camera making that choice for me. And again, this is only for JPEG. Has nothing to do with raw images. A raw image is a raw image. If you're shooting a JPEG, again, we don't have the latitude in post as far as editing goes, but I would urge you just to use a standard profile. It's actually very pleasing. Canon does have a really nice color science, and then you can make some adjustments in post, but don't let the camera burn in or bake in a creative style for you, okay? Make those decisions on your own. Clarity, we're gonna leave alone. This is going to be image processing with creative filters is disabled, and we want to leave this disabled. We do not want to add any creative filters to our images, and again, this is just for JPEGs, not the RAWs. Lens aberration correction, this is typically on. Go ahead and leave that on. As far as that goes, we can allow the camera to help us make some of those corrections. Noise reduction, we're going to leave off. High ISO speed noise reduction, we want to turn this off. We are going to do this in post. Dust delete data, and that is just going to, obtain data for removing dust alongside software, refer to manuals, details. So, this is something that you're going to be doing as far as sensor cleaning and dust on the sensor and any type of debris there might be. We go to the next one, multiple exposure, we're going to have disabled, raw burst mode is disabled, focus bracketing is disabled. These you can go ahead and change as you will. There's no right or wrong answer when it comes to these. So focus bracketing, for example, if we want to shoot a focus bracket, we would enable this, choose the number of shots, choose the increment, choose to have exposure smoothing and depth composite we can enable or disable. Some people say it's a good idea. I have not done focus bracketing with the Canon camera, the R8 specifically, so I can't speak on that from a point of I've actually done it. But depending on what video you watch, people will tell you to enable or disable that. But in here, this is where you would set yourself up for doing focus brackets. Raw burst mode, again, we have raw burst mode. Takes the first continuous shots in RAW, and then you can extract images from there. This is going to be a choice where you can enable it or disable it. None of these I actually worry about. Drive mode, this is going to be how many shots you can take at one time. I typically do high. Interval timer, we're not doing any interval timer shooting, but this is where you're going to do it. Page 7 in the menu to set this up. If we go to silent shutter function, you can turn this on or off. This is whether or not you're going to have an electronic shutter. And I have the HDMI cable connected to this to record this, so this is why some of the items are grayed out. Again, we're in the manual function. Just to let you know, none of these, if this wasn't hooked up, we would have full access to that. But it does disable some of the functionality, which I don't understand why Canon does that, to be quite honest with you. And one example is when I have it in photo mode, I can't see the back of the screen, and that's why I can't use a touch screen. In video mode, I can see the back of the screen and on my recorder, but I cannot simultaneously record to the recorder and to the camera itself. It just won't allow it. So I know every camera's got its little quirks, but that one was kind of a little beyond me. So we could do silent shutter on or off. This is where you're going to find it. Shutter mode, we got electronic first curtain. Shutter release without card, we have on. That's not a big deal. Image stabilization mode. So digital stabilization right now is off. If we turn it on, we are going to have an additional crop, all right? But you have to remember, this camera does not come with IBIS, all right? So the only stabilization you're gonna have is either from the lens or, doing that digital stabilization internally. So customize quick controls. So here's where you're going to go into, and we're not going to dive deep into this, to customize your quick control settings. Now, right, and so here, okay, I would urge you again, these are completely customizable. You can make these whatever you want them to be. Use the camera for a while, okay? Get to know your camera, get to know your needs before you start changing these, all right? Change them to suit your style of photography and your needs, not someone else's that you've seen on YouTube, okay? But this is where you're going to make those changes. And if you're curious, I mean, when you go to edit layout, it's gonna bring up the layout, and then you can go here, you can select one of these, and then you can change it and replace it with something else, okay? But for now, we're gonna leave that alone. We're gonna go back to our Mutter. Touch shutter disabled. I do not want to have it take a photo when I touch the back screen, okay? That's what the shutter button's for, as far as I'm concerned. Image review, review duration, we are actually gonna turn this off because we are not going to be chimping every photo. Viewfinder display, we are gonna leave this disabled because if we're looking at that image, we're typically gonna be looking at it on the back screen, not through the viewfinder as far as that goes. So we're gonna come back out here, high-speed display is gonna be off. Metering timer, 8 seconds, and you can go ahead and choose what works best for you. 8 seconds is typically standard. I've seen some people switch it around and have various reasons to switch it around. Just shoot the camera, see what works best for you before you start making changes on this one as well. Display simulation, we are going to go ahead and leave that on exposure. You can do depth of field if you want to, or you could do exposure only during the depth of field preview. Exposure is where a vast majority of people do. I don't necessarily need a depth of field simulation. I know I've done photography long enough. I know what it's going to look like, and I can pretty much see, you know, looking through the EVF, what it's gonna look like. But the exposure simulation is critical, and it's one of those things as mirrorless camera users we enjoy, because as we adjust our exposure, whether that's through aperture, shutter speed, we are gonna see that direct feedback, and the image is either gonna get brighter or darker, which is nice. In days of the DSLR, we had the exposure meter down there, and we took the photo, but we still had to check, because just because your exposure meter said it was, you know, where it needed to be, doesn't mean that it actually was. So, yeah, it's just one of those things. So moving right along, OVF simulation, view assist we have off. We don't need an optical viewfinder simulation, at least I don't. Grab yourself a rangefinder if you want optical viewfinder. Shooting info display. Now here's where you're going to go in and you can change what you see on the screen. All right, so if we go here, you can see all these items. You can customize what you want to see, what you don't want to see. All right, you can do this for the viewfinder, info toggle settings, vertical display, what you see, grid display, you know, is where we could choose rule of thirds, histogram brightness, you can go ahead and change this, display size, we can change that. Now your display size going to large will actually eliminate some of the things you can see on displays because it makes everything larger. That is typically for someone who might have a visual impairment, so it's nice that they have that accessibility there for people who might need a larger print, I guess you could say. But it does make it handy, but you will lose some of the items you can carry on there. Lens info display, so focus to display in manual focus mode. I love this. It's on the Sony cameras, it's on the Nikon cameras. This is actually really nice. Focal length display. I don't need to know what focal length I'm shooting. If you want to, you could turn this on. Personal preference as far as I'm concerned. So we're going to back out of this again. Viewfinder display format. Here's where you're going to choose between display 1 or display 2. Totally up to you. This is personal preference. I will not say one is better than the other. Display and performance. We can have power savings or we can have smooth. I typically do performance. It's not taking up that much more of the battery power, and I'm sorry, paid a lot of money for the camera. I want every little bit of performance that I can get out of it. I'm not trying to skimp and save as far as that goes. This is why I get an extra battery or 2 extra batteries as far as that. Now, on page 10, we're dealing with the recording, which we will deal more in depth when we actually set those video parameters. But for right now, we're just gonna leave this alone. Sound recording, we have auto, okay? We have wind filter, we want to disable this at all times, and then auto noise reduction, we want to disable this as well. Any of these adjustments we're going to make in post, and then this will manually detect levels and adjust, or automatically detect levels and adjust. This, you will manually adjust those sound levels. And here, as we can see, we're going to adjust those sound levels as far as that goes. We can turn that down, and you can see those meters starting to go down as far as that. Or we can come back up. So that is going to be the difference there. Again, I strongly urge you to do this yourself. Set it. All microphones are different as far as sensitivity and everything like that, and so you don't necessarily want to rely on the camera to tell you what sounds best. Go ahead and do that one yourself. So we're going to back out of here. We're not going to worry about the ISO or slow shutter right now while we're in photo mode. Shutter button function for movies, that is a negative. We want to leave this off. You have a record button on here to start stop video, and that's where you want to leave it. Now, autofocus operation, I typically do servo, which is going to be continuous autofocus. You can do AI autofocus if you'd like, or you could do one shot. Again, this is going to depend on you as a photographer, what kind of photography you are doing, and what you need for that moment. So I'm not going to tell you that one is better than the other. I typically always have continuous autofocus on. Sometimes I shoot manual focus when it's warranted, and other times I do single shot when it's warranted. So that being said, autofocus area, again, this is going to really, we have whole area, we have flexible zone. I typically use the expanded autofocus area, and this gives me a chance to move that where I want it when I'm taking my photos. This ensures that what I want to be in focus is in focus. If you do the whole area, it tends to focus on what's closest to you, and that might not be what you want in focus. So again, with focus area, like some of the other settings, you're going to have to choose what's appropriate for the scenario you're in. Whole focus area tracking continuous. We're going to leave this on. So basically it's saying that if we have whole focus, we're going to have continuous autofocus on. And actually, so the whole focus area is kind of like zone or area focusing in Sony. And when I'm shooting video with Sony, I typically have the whole area, and I have continuous track as set up for the face and eye and everything like that. That's what this one would be. Subject to detect is people, but you can choose here, or you can choose none. In some cases, you are going to want to choose none. But we typically have it on people. Eye detection is auto, but you can choose right eye, left eye, or disable it completely. And for some people, they actually set up these options to choose to have it on or off in a quick menu button, a quick set button. So that way, if they don't want the camera to snap to a person and track them because there's other things going around, they can enable that or disable that very, very quickly. Switching tracked subjects. Okay, so here you're going to have to choose what works best for you, okay? This is kind of like the stickiness of your tracking spot. Sony, Nikon, all the cameras you can adjust how sticky that is. So is it going to stay on the subject with initial priority, or are we going to allow it to switch subjects kind of at its whim? The choice is yours. Different scenarios, again, it's going to work differently, and you're going to want to choose, you know, as far as how that is. Is it one person priority, you just want to be locked onto them no matter what they are doing, or do you want to have it switch from facing the crowd? Maybe you're doing some B-roll. Use it, see which one works best for you for your scenario, and then that's what you're going to want to go with. And then we have use the lens to switch the IS, which is the stabilization, which on this lens, it's on the side right there. We'll go ahead and button tour when we come back around as far as that, walk through. Now we are going to menu, page 2. These are going to be all your settings as far as autofocus, okay? And this actually, they do really good. So, you know, in this case, case A, tracking automatically adapts to subject movement. Here's one, case 1, versatile multi-purpose setting. Continue to track subjects ignoring obstacles. Instantly focus on subjects suddenly entering the autofocus. You know, you have your tracking sensitivity set up, and then you have your auto, which is tracking is automatically going to adapt to the environment. And I kind of started with auto first and then went up to 1, which I apologize for that. This is going to really depend on you and what you're doing. If you're a portrait photographer and person standing in front of you and you don't have to worry about anybody popping in or out of the image and you're in control of the environment, well, pick the one that's just going to stay locked onto the subject. If you're outdoors, maybe you're shooting an athletic event, your kids are in sports or something like that, baseball, football, some areas hockey, you might want to choose a different focusing mode as far as that goes. Again, none of these are right or wrong. I can't sit there and tell you you have to choose this one. This is going to be based on the type of photography you are doing. Okay, so let's go again. One-shot autofocus, release priority. So you can change this to either to be release or focus priority or somewhere in the middle. Okay, I have mine set up to where it's set for release. I'd rather have an image that's slightly out of focus that I might be able to fix in post than no image at all because the camera decided, man, I'm not going to shoot because it's not in focus. So again, you don't typically get a second chance to get that shot. Preview autofocus disabled. That's where it's going to constantly autofocusing, ready for you to take the shot. It's a battery draw. Leave this off. It's my opinion. You can leave it on if you want, but I would say, go ahead and leave it off because of the draw on the battery. Lens drive, when autofocus impossible, leave that on. Autofocus assist beam firing. You can have this on. Again, I don't shoot Canon cameras a whole lot. I've had it on, I've had it off. I don't think either one worked or helped better than the other, So this is going to be totally your choice. Flip a coin and roll with that, I guess you could say. Touch and drag autofocus settings off. I don't want that on the touch screen. Try it. You may like it. If you do, great. It's your camera. Shoot it the way you want to. But for me, I have this turned off. When I'm using a Canon camera, this is turned off. Limit autofocus areas. I don't want to limit. I want to be able to choose whatever autofocus area I want. Orientation linked autofocus. So this is going to be same for both vertical and horizon. Separate autofocus points, area plus point. And this is what I typically select. So if I have the camera and I'm shooting here, my autofocus point is oriented a specific way. If I turn it here, all right, and then I move it to where now it's where I want it to, and I switch back here, I want to come back to the autofocus point I had in horizontal mode. And when I go back to vertical, I want it to go back to where it was in vertical mode. That's what that selection is. It's really, really nice to have that set up. Well, in here, let me sit there and kind of get out of here. Maybe I could show you. So if I turn that autofocus area, but when I come back, it's going to come back to the center. Okay, so that's what that is. If I turn it here, it's going to set it up in a different spot, and then when I turn it here, it's going to go back to the same spot. Now, if I were to move that, and I can't do the touch screen, again, it won't allow me to, as far as that goes, because I have it hooked up in photo mode. But if I were to move that autofocus spot and then switch to here and then switch back, it's going to go back to where I last had it set. I like that. Maybe you don't want to have it set that way. Again, that's your choice. But I like knowing that it's going to be back to where I had it prior to switching between vertical or horizontal orientation. Limit subject to detect. I don't want it to limit. Again, I paid big money for this camera. Well, maybe not big money. Good money though. All money's good, I should say. But it's not cheap. At $16.99, it's not cheap, and I don't want to limit it to whatever it's going to do. Are there some cases where, yes, you're going to have that stuff turned off? Absolutely. But by and large, we're going to leave that on. We're not going to limit. Left, right eye detection, we're going to leave that in auto as far as that goes. Or this is where you can choose. I'm sorry, that was the screen before. This one, again, we're going to choose what we're going to limit. We're not going to limit everything. We want it to be able to do all of it. Manual focus peaking settings, we are going to turn these on, but we are going to set it on low and color red because they don't have green, so I like to use red, whatever works best for your eye. And I say use low because if we set it to high, sometimes we get a false positive on it being in focus, okay? So we set it to low, Sony has a medium setting, but that's the one I choose to use. And this way, when you see that, you know you're in focus. Sometimes the edge and it wants to contrast based it a little bit too much, and then you're like, oh, it's in focus. You take the photo and it's not. Personal preference on that one again, my friends, so choose what works best for you. Focus guide, we are gonna have on when we're doing manual focus, of course, and movie servo autofocus we're gonna enable. And again, we'll have another option to look at that when we go into video mode. Electronic full-time manual focus. This is going to be off, all right? Lens correction or lens electronic manual focus, we are going to have off. Now you do have options here. You can have it on, okay? We can have one shot enabled and it's going to magnify, or we can disable in autofocus mode. This is really going to be up to you. So as you can see when I'm doing this, it's not doing anything, all right? And then by choosing one of these, okay, it's going to affect what you're going to be doing. Oops, there we go, enabled. So, and of course it's not gonna come through because I have the HDMI cable turned on as far as that goes. And so here we go, manual focus control. So now we can see that it's in focus and this would be out of focus. And so these are what some of those focusing aids are that I was telling you about. And this is nice to have because now you know you pretty much can't miss. And I will be honest with you, okay? I wish Sony had that, okay? Sony doesn't have that nice, I don't know why, okay? It is what it is. What are you gonna do? So let's go ahead and go back to the menu. We can go ahead in the focus control ring, and then focus mode and autofocus when used as a control ring. So this one again, it's gonna be your choice on how you wanna set up that control ring out front. Focus ring rotation, you could change this orientation. Again, it's pretty much straightforward. Some lenses are backwards on that, or some manufacturers are backwards on how they have the orientation. Canon follows pretty much what the industry is. So when we go this way, it's gonna be less, come in more, it's gonna be more. Or turn to the right, it's gonna be more. Excuse me. So this is going to allow you to adjust the sensitivity, okay? Varies rotation speed, linked to rotation degree. Try out and see which one works the best. And basically this helps turn the focusing ring to be more dampened. So we can either go really quick and it's gonna manual focus really quick, or if it's slow, it's gonna go nice and slow, or we can change it to that degree mark and that's gonna act more linear like a cinema lens would, is what they're trying to emulate here. They do an okay job. I don't think any manufacturer's gotten it right yet so far, but that's basically what they're trying to do there. All right, so now we go into playback. Now playback, I really don't spend a whole lot of time here because any of this stuff I don't use. Now, that is me. If you want to scroll through your images and look at those images and stuff like that, great. And to be honest with you, if you didn't touch any of the settings in playback mode, you're gonna be just fine. Sony, Nikon, Canon, Fuji, the playback modes, all work tremendously well without any type of customization, okay? Now, there are some times where you are, if you're in a professional setting, maybe you're shooting portraits, you want to look at that image, it's going to tell you where certain areas are clipped, it's going to give you on the color channels and stuff like that. Sure, you can adjust those. But even then, it's pretty much already set up for you without customizing anything in the menu setting. So that's why this one, really don't worry about it, okay? So if you want, you could dive into those, but for the most part, when I tell you, leave them be, all right? There's no reason to change them. So here we're gonna go connect to a smartphone. This is really easy, or tablet. Connect wirelessly to a remote, connect to the utility. You can upload an image to .canon if it was connected through your phone, as far as that goes. Airplane mode, you could turn this on or off. Wi-Fi settings we're going to enable. Bluetooth would be enabled. Here's the camera name. You can change the camera name. GPS device settings where you can change. You could turn GPS on or off. Turning it on, you will lose more battery. Okay, it's another part of the camera that needs power. You could totally do it though. If the GPS, if that geotagging information is important to you, then by all means turn it on. Now when we reset communications, this is just going to clear everything and reset it back to factory default just for the communication settings. Okay. Now in 2023, everybody's using the phone app to trigger, you know, being able to set stuff up and compose, especially if you're trying to do, you know, selfies, something like that. Canon's works pretty good. Nikon's works pretty good. Fuji just revamped theirs, so it's working much, much better. And thank God, Sony finally revamped theirs. Theirs was horrible. Okay. Yeah, you know, I don't know what's up with Sony on that one. So, but here's where you would do all of these. Super easy, step by step. And since I'm not going to pair the phone, and this video is not about pairing a phone today, we're just going to go ahead and pass on by these. I'm going to wake this back up. I know the timer power settings are stock. So select folder. We are going to leave this alone. File numbering, you're going to leave it as continuous. This is where you would format your SD card. Auto rotate, you're going to leave it on auto rotate. Add video camera rotate info, disable, you can turn it on if you want, it is your choice. Date, time zone, language, obviously these have already been done. Video system, we are for NTSC, enable text size, small. You can do it standard, totally your choice. Mode guide is enabled, feature guide is enabled, beep is enabled. I am going to turn the beep off because that is a personal preference for me. This is going to be your headphone volume. Now, volume is blacked out because we have it on HDMI right now, or I should say grayed out. Mode guide, this gives you those quick little tips as you're like getting ready to choose something. It tells you, hey, that's what this function is on. Leave it on. I leave them on. Just leave them on, they're nice, okay? With all the information we have to remember on a daily basis, okay? It's nice to have little prompts like that so we can remember the important stuff, not necessarily this. Same thing with the feature guide and everything. Like I said, beep, I have it disabled. It's totally your choice though. Power savings, screen, we are going to, you could set this to however you want it as far as dimming, screen off, it stays on. Auto power off in 30 seconds. We can save this to 3 minutes, and then viewfinder off time, we can just disable, so that is just going to always be on. That's kind of how I have mine set up. And Sony, it just says, do you want to link everything? And I say yes. So at 2 minutes, it goes to sleep power saving mode as far as that goes, and that's everything. Screen, viewfinder, display, we have auto, okay? We have auto 2 for auto switching, screen only. And then we have viewfinder, and then we have just screen. Okay, guys, leave this on auto. Don't even mess with this. So when you put the camera up to your eye, it goes to the viewfinder. And when you take it away from your eye, it goes to the screen. Don't mess with it. A couple times a month, yeah, on that. Get a customer come in, God bless them, they changed it and they can't figure out why. Their screen isn't coming on or the viewfinder, that's the first setting we go to. They accidentally changed it, and it happens, but just leave it alone, all right? Screen brightness, you can go ahead and choose what you want. I typically have it as bright as possible, and that's just my preference. I don't feel you lose a whole bunch on the battery enough to make a difference, not in 2023 anyways. You can fine tune the viewfinder color tone. I don't mess with this because it's usually good out of the gate. We have our user interface magnification is disabled. HDMI resolution is going to be auto. Touch control is standard, but you can either have it to be sensitive or disable. Standard works very well. Multifunction lock, you can do this if you want to have a lockout on your camera, okay? And you're going to use the other dials to either lock or unlock. So that's how that works. Sensor cleaning speaks for itself. Choose USB connection when you're connecting. Now, photo import remote control, video call streaming, Canon app for iPhone. I mean, so I on this as far as that goes. I usually have it ask me when I plug it in, and that's how it's set up for right now. You can choose to just, hey, this is all that USB connection is going to work for. Leave it where it's at, so when you plug it in, it's going to ask you, are we using this as a mass storage device? Are we using this now because you have your SD cards in here, you can transfer your information that way? Are we going to use it as a webcam? What are we going to do? Okay? Don't just say you're only going to do this one function and then have to change it every single time. Just leave it. It's going to auto-detect and then ask you what you want to do. Reset camera. This is going to reset all your settings back to factory. Custom shooting mode. This is where you get a chance to save all your settings that you've just done in one of the custom shooting modes and the dial. And again, we'll dial walkthrough and everything like that. Battery info, copyright information, manual software. This is a link for that. Certification logo display, firmware to make sure you're on the current firmware. Now, in the Canon menu is a little bit different, and again, being a Sony shooter, whenever I do one of these, it's kind of like, I don't understand why they have it put here, but if you're a Canon shooter, this makes complete sense, okay? These are going to be some of the things that now you have control to change. Most of these we will not change, but again, if it works for you and it makes sense for you to change these, then change them. Don't listen to me and the way I shoot. Don't listen to the guy or gal on YouTube and the way they shoot. Do it based on the way you shoot. Capiche? All right. So we can change the way our exposure level increments, okay? So when we change our exposure, it's gonna go up a third, okay? Or a half stop, third, all right? It's pretty much standard. ISO speed setting increments, again, a third, pretty much standard. Speed for metering ISO, we're going to have auto, bracketing auto cancel, we're going to have on bracketing sequence. I typically go negative, neutral, positive. Preference, that's all that is, preference. Do how you want to, okay? Number of brackets, I do 9 shots, but on this camera you can only choose 7. And safety shift, we can enable this, we can set this up how we want to. I have it off. I'm not worried about anything shifting one way or the other. That's totally just, again, personal preference. Same exposure for new aperture. You could turn this on, you could turn this off. You can, again, adjust this how you want it to be adjusted. Auto exposure lock meter mode after focus. Again, you can have this on or off. It doesn't really, well, I shouldn't say it doesn't matter. Again, these are going to be based on your style of photography, okay? Most of these I don't change. When I'm shooting in Canon and camera, I really don't. And 9 times out of 10, the person who gave me the camera to shoot has it set up pretty much how I want it, you know, and so there's not really many changes I need to make. And if I'm doing a review on a Canon camera, I set it up the same way all the time anyways, that consistency just in the way I shoot. Set shutter speed range. Now here's something that is interesting, which I like this. So now on the electronic first curtain, and we'll kind of go back here. This, just like you're setting your ISO, we have parameters for auto ISO and just our regular ISO if we were manually going to choose. You can choose a shutter speed range if you're in first curtain or electronic, which I think is nice. But here's the thing, do we really need to choose, you know, what our shutter speed is going to be at, a high, low, max, setting a ceiling for that? I don't think so. I think this was a mistake that Canon included this. What do I know? I got a shaved head and tattoos, and I use a camera for a living. I would urge you to leave this one alone, okay? Change it if you'd like, but I'd urge you to leave this one alone. Same thing with your aperture setting. Just leave this one alone, all right? Now, again, this is going to be direction of your wheels, all right? Do you want to switch? Do you want them, you know, to be shutter speed, aperture, okay? Aperture, shutter speed. Do you want to change one of them to, excuse me, be ISO, okay? These choices are yours, and this is where you're going to make these decisions. So if we go here, we can reverse direction or normal, all right? Coming from a Nikon, you might want to reverse that, all right? Direction set, again. For now, TV is time value and AV is aperture value. On a Sony Canon, it's just, I think Sony actually did start going to TV in the menu, but on top, even though it says TV, AV here, on Sony, it's just a straight PASM dial, okay? Where it's PASM. So it's program, auto, manual, shutter. Aperture, I'm sorry, program, aperture, manual, shutter. PASM, shutter, manual. Whatever order it's in, but that's what it stands for as far as that goes. You could switch, okay? You can customize the buttons, all right? And as you can see by the menu here, you can customize all these buttons to do whatever you want it to do. And as of the new menu systems for Canon and Sony, and I believe Nikon, they started giving you these great diagrams. So you know exactly where the button's located, you know exactly what it's gonna do, and it gives you a description of what it actually does, okay? And if you go to change it, it gives you a nice description on what you're changing it to, all right? That's nice, okay? I like that. But we're not gonna change anything today. And I would urge you, don't change any of these buttons, don't customize any of this stuff until you've used the camera for a good 3 months, okay? You've gone out there, you've got a good maybe 30 hours, 50 hours of camera time on there, you know. And then start changing those again to suit your needs as a photographer or videographer, not somebody else's. You're gonna customize your dials here, and here you can clear your customized settings and put everything back to the way it was out of the box, which is nice. I wish Sony gave you this option as far as clearing the settings go. We can add our cropping information. We can do audio compression. I am actually going to turn this off. Default erase option. Release shutter without lens on. Retract lens on power off. It's on, but for most lenses, we're not going to have to worry about that one as far as it being a power zoom. Clear all custom functions, okay? This is going to clear. If you've changed a bunch of custom settings and you're like, crap, I don't know what I'm doing now, here's where you want to come to. Okay, that's page 5 in the customization menu. You're going to clear all the all your custom functions, and it's going to go back to factory default, just on the functions though. And then the last one here, we have the menu. Now this is nice. We can add a My Menu tab, okay? And we're going to go okay. And then we are going to select items to register. And here, I would add, first and foremost, it's typically the only one I have in here. Some of you might know where I'm trying to get to. I just don't want to skip it. Holy smokes. It's as bad as friggin' Sony having to go through the whole thing. I wish these were alphabetized. It'd make life a whole lot easier. And we're still going. You can see everything that you can add to your custom menu, but I am specifically looking for format card. There it is, winner, winner. Register this to the tab, okay, and now we are gonna back out, menu, okay. Now when I want to format my SD card, here's where I come to, okay? I don't have to try to find it in the menu system. This is it. And this is the great thing about the star menu. Now, before, where some buttons you couldn't customize for both Canon and Sony, okay, you would add that stuff here in the star menu. Just quick access, boom, you don't have to go digging through the menu system. Now that we can pretty much customize anything we want on any of the buttons, we can completely remap those. You don't see as many items in this section, but still, formatting your SD card is the one I tell everybody to put in there. So now that's it. As far as the photo settings, that's it, okay? We were on manual mode. We went through all the photo settings. I gave you my opinion. I told you the ones that, hey, don't, change these, wait till you're done, which ones are personal preference and which ones, hey, this is the way it really should be. Now, I'm clicking over to the video section on the tab, and that's this right there, okay? So now, I know my Little Mermaid mug, coffee mug, and you know what? And I haven't had a sip of coffee. Good stuff, guys. So now when we go back into the menu system and we come over here, you can see these first ones are going to be all for video. So movie recording size. here's where you're going to get a chance to choose your, and there is a plethora, my friends, okay? So we are going to go to 4K, 24 frames a second, okay? Standard. We don't need light. We're going to go standard, and we're going to go ahead and select that. Now, obviously, you can choose 30 frames a second, 60 frames a second, and then at that, to go any higher, you can see where we have our HD, it looks like we're tapping out at 60 frames a second and 4K 60 frames a second. So, but this is where you're going to make that decision on what frame rate you want. High frame rate, we can enable or we can disable, okay? So audio is not recorded in high frame rate movies, and that is kind of like when we do it, we have the intent of slowing it down in post. Now, this particular camera, and we're gonna leave that disabled, this particular camera, you can do enable your high frame rate, and then you can come here and you can see it's changed, okay? Boom, look at that. It went to 120 frames a second HD, 1080, not 4K. This camera will not do 120 4K. But if you want to slow something down close to 6 times in post-production, this is where you would change that, okay? So you would just come here, high frame rate, we're gonna disable, okay? And we're back, and we need to make sure that we go back to our 24 frames a second 4K, all right? Sound recording, we're gonna do manual. Digital zoom is off, it's grayed out because we're in HDMI mode. Exposure compensation, again, we are going to leave this alone. ISO settings, these are gonna carry over, okay, from the other menu, but you can, same thing, so we can have auto, we can do 100, we're gonna choose, okay? So here we've chosen auto, and that's gonna auto adjust our ISO, but remember, we can change that range, okay, for auto and just our regular range, all right? And here's the max for auto. So again, this is good because if you know you're gonna be able to control your light and everything like that, and you don't want it to fluctuate between ISO, you want everything to be consistent, then make those adjustments in here, save them, set up a custom key on the back of the camera or something in that quick menu system. Canon has a very, very nice quick menu system, but you could set something up in that quick menu system, all right, and go ahead and access it quickly to switch between high speed and regular shutter rate, okay? These are some of the things you can do. HDR shooting, HDR PQ, you know what, guys? I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the HDR PQ. In my opinion, it oversaturates it too much. I'd rather see you guys record an 8-bit and edit what you can accordingly. That's just my opinion, but if you want, you can change it, and you can go in and see highlight tone priority is enabled, and they're saying it's recommended. Okay, this is gonna be your 10-bit recording, and again, you could choose to do this, or you could choose not to. Totally your choice. Auto lighting optimizer, this is gonna give you how it's disabled right now, okay? If you were to turn this on, you're gonna get choices, and it's going to auto-optimize your lighting by exposure compensation, I believe. If I understand correctly from what Canon's told me, that's how that works. Again, this is something I will leave off. Do not let the camera artificially manipulate these items. Either add light, okay, or make do with what you have and try to correct what you can in post. Cameras tend to be heavy-handed, and again, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's Blackmagic, I don't care if it's a Komodo, Red Komodo, C100, and FX6. None of them do a good job with any of these internal settings, and this is why on the menu ones, everybody says, turn it off, it's too heavy-handed. I don't know one person that says, yeah, the noise reduction and the sharpening in camera is the best. Nobody says that, my friends. So this is something, again, I would leave off. Highlight tone priority, this is where you're gonna be able to choose what you want there. You could do enhanced. Now we're in HDR PQ, so it's not gonna give us a chance to change this. That's why that is grayed out, all right? Our anti-flicker shooting we can turn on or we can turn off. Again, we've discussed that. Come over to page 3. So we can do aperture value and 1/8 stop increments, disable or enable. Disable that. So when we're talking about aperture again and shutter priority, so when you shoot video, you're shooting either in manual or shutter priority. But shutter should be the one thing that you're really not going to change. So if you're in 4K 24, you're shooting at 1/48th or 1/50th of a second. 4K 30 is going to be 1/60th of a second. You're doubling that frame rate. Now, to fine-tune exposure, you're using your aperture or you're using your ND filter, which you should have if you're shooting video anyways, or you're adding light, you're taking away light. There's a couple ways to do that, okay? Basically what they're doing right now is they're saying, hey, we can make it 1/8 stop increments on your aperture to make it a little bit easier to fine-tune your exposure. I don't think it's needed. This is one of those things where I appreciate what Canon tried to do, but I really don't think it's needed. So we're just going to leave this disabled. White balance, auto white balance, same. We can choose to customize this. We can set it ourselves. Go to Kelvin, here, and then, do that. And then we're going to adjust 5200. 5600 would be daylight. 52 is going to be kind of just below daylight settings. You can pull a custom white balance, obviously. Here it is, the custom white balance. We are not doing any white balance correction. Now, picture style, standard. Just do standard, guys. Seriously, don't mess with any of the other picture styles. Just leave it alone. Do what you need to do in post. High ISO speed noise reduction, we're going to turn this off. The lens aberration, we're going to go ahead and leave on. Pre-recording set is off. You can turn this on. And so it's basically going to give you 5 seconds of pre-roll. Basically, it's, as far as like going through there, if you were to turn it on. Again, we have the HDMI cable plugged in, and that's why some of these are grayed out. Movie self-timer, you can turn this on or off. It's totally up to you. You can see your choices. 2 seconds, 10 seconds are off. Image stabilization mode, digital stabilization is on. If you're doing handheld with video and you don't have a stabilized lens, even if you do have a stabilized lens, you might want to consider turning the digital stabilization on. Just remember, you will get an additional crop, all right? You already have a crop sensor. At 1.6 on the crop, you are going to crop even more. So remember, and with Canon being 1.6, 18 millimeter lens turns into a 28, and then when you add the digital stabilization, the 28 I think turns into like a 32 or 33 or something. It makes a difference. So just be cognizant of that on what you're going to want to do as far as that goes, or what you're choosing to turn on and off. Customize quick controls, same thing. We're going to customize those quick controls, but we're going to do it for, here we go, video. And it's not coming up. It shows it on the back of my screen, and I assure you, just like the photography settings. And this is the other thing that I'm going to bring up. Now, here, you can see the back of my screen. HDMI cable's plugged in. We're in movie recording mode. When you are in photo mode, this does not happen. Canon will not allow that to happen in photo mode. And when I am in this mode, screen, I cannot record, okay, internally on the cards and externally on the monitor. Canon won't allow it. Again, why? I don't know. Sure, whatever. I'm not even going to hazard a guess or try to speculate on why that is. No one had a really good answer for me in Canon. Now, some of the boards say it's because if you do try to do that, you're going to get a recording time restriction, which there's no recording time restriction on this camera anyway, so I don't buy that, okay? But again, I'm not gonna throw shade or anything like that. They have their reasons. I think that it's unwarranted. I think you should be able to record to there and then have your backup redundancy by recording to a card internally, but that's just me. Again, what do I know? So let's keep going. Shutter button function for movies. Nope, we got a record button on top, and that's where we're gonna leave it. Metering timer is 8 seconds. False color set is off. Zebra settings. Now, okay, false color, you're gonna expose a couple different ways. You can expose with false color, and we can turn on the index, and here it shows you and everything like that, what the index is, and we can turn this on, okay? And when we expose now, we can expose with false color. You're not seeing it on the monitor because it doesn't go through, but you're seeing it on my back screen. So it's nice that we have that false color overlay. Or we can turn this off and we can do our zebra settings. And so we've got the patterns to choose from, zebra pattern 1, and here is our levels that we can change. So typically, when I am shooting in log, I have, or S-Log3 I should say to be specific, my zebras have to be at a certain, if I am exposing using zebras. If I'm exposing doing false color, it's completely different. I'm pulling that exposure from middle gray, IRE middle gray. Canon log is exposed differently from Sony S-Log, so you need to know what your exposure value is, where you need to set your zebras so you know if you're clipping or if you're exposed correctly, or you can use false color. I know, right? It's a whole lot of stuff going on here. Screen info settings, again, this is where we're going to have a chance to change for video what we want on our screen info. The viewfinder display, this is where we're going to get a chance to set it. Standby low res, okay, we can turn this on or off. I'm going to leave it off. I don't want anything low res. HDMI display. Now, again, it's showing camera and screen. If I change this to just screen, I can now record what I want on here as well as internally on the camera as well as on the external recorder. But I cannot see the back of my screen, okay? I don't agree with this, and I'm not trying to be a hater, guys. Seriously, I don't agree with it. There should be no reason why I can't see the back of my screen and I can't see on the, whether it's a Shinobi or a Blackmagic or an Adamus or, port keys, whatever the case may be. I should be able to see it. I should be able to record. I should be able to record. So Canon, I know people have made mention of this before. Not that you're going to listen to me, but do something about it. It's a firmware update. That's it. And then we can go ahead and do our time code. And then from here, we can adjust our autofocus settings, okay, specifically for video and save those for, our video settings. These will not change between photo and video, which is the nice thing. So, there's that continuous autofocus. There is the focus area, and I am doing whole area, like I said, is typically what I do when I record video. And so I could set these up specifically for my video settings. They are not going to change my photo settings. And as we go through, all of these are going to be exactly what we saw when we were in our photo mode as far as the rest of these go. So, and then we're gonna have, there's our formatting card, and then we're back to the beginning, and then we can go back to photo, and then we're back to photo mode, and there's that. So, before we continue on, let's talk about our partner really quick, Foto Forum. Now, Foto Forum, okay, has been serving Valley photographers, the photography community at large in the state of Arizona. I know, because for 2 years I've been working there. People from Prescott, from the Apache Nation, down from Tucson, Douglas, Sedona, Prescott, all over the place, guys. They come to see us, okay, for 50 years. And for the last couple years, since I've been there, we've really been shining with our video shooters. So now we have become quite the community hub for photographers and videographers. We have classes, we have photo walks, we have group hikes, we have all kinds of events, my friends, okay? Our reps for Canon and for Sony and for Tamron and for Fuji, they're amazing, okay? They come down to the store all the time. We have events. Our rep from Small Rig, oh my God, Suray. We're a Suray authorized dealer now, and they're coming back here again in the fourth quarter, which is amazing, guys. We're a community shop. Come in, ask your questions. If you want to see something, we'll take it out of the box. You can put it in your hand. We'll throw a battery in it. You can try it out. We're that shop, okay? Hands-on. We're here to help you on your journey and learn, okay? That's the best part about Foto Forum, okay? For 50 years they've been doing it. Now, coming up on 51, all right? And, Lord willing, while I'm there for the next several years, okay, we'll continue to serve the community at large, okay? That's what we're all about, community, answering your questions, helping you on your journey. So yeah, if you're in the Valley of the Sun, state of Arizona, stop in, Foto Forum, check out. The website link is gonna be down below. Our website's not that good, I'm not gonna lie. But you can't follow us on social media. Instagram, oh my God, I post everything on the Instagram. Check it out, come in, say hi, call, ask your questions. We are here to help you. All right, that being said, my friends, there it is. All right, we have the full menu walkthrough on the Canon R8. Now, I tried to cover everything that I possibly could in as much detail as I possibly can without making this a 2-hour video like Michael the Maven. But I love that guy. He is amazing. If there's something that I did not cover as thoroughly as you would like me to have, comment down below and say, hey, Thomas, can you expand upon this? I have had some great feedback on the R50 menu tutorial that I did. And when you guys ask a question, I reach out directly to my Canon rep, Stacy. She is amazing. And I wait for her to get back to me with concrete information, links, all kinds, I mean, in photos. They've sent screenshots before, which I've passed on to you. So if you have any questions, anything I need to expound upon, let me know and I will do so, okay? I'm here for you guys. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you have, like, subscribe, bell notification icon. It's the trifecta we enjoy so much here at Get Out Arizona, okay? We've got some links down below. Foto Forum. Make sure you check out our social media. I guess you could check out our website too, guys. I don't know. But for sure, check out our social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, the devil's work. But it's necessary to help Get Out Arizona get out there for people to hear about us. And we do fun group activities, the group hikes and the group photo walks that I was telling you about as far as Foto Forum. That's me. That's Get Out Arizona. I facilitate those. And I do group mountain bike rides as well. They're a whole lot of fun. And again, we're bringing community together. And that's what it's all about. Other links down below will be affiliate links. If you hit one of those, I appreciate it because you won't be charged anything additional, all right? But we will receive a small commission and it helps out with park money, gas money, and coffee money. The other trifecta we love so much here at Get Out Arizona. So, my friends, on that note, what do we always say? Be kind to yourself and others, be amazing stewards on that trail, and we have to ask, what are you waiting for? Get Out Arizona. We'll see you on that next adventure, my friends. Take care, everybody, and have a great day.